If the design and the visual elements are the framework of your online home, then the content, words, pictures, video, and forms are the furniture and the decorations. And so in this section, we're going to take a closer look at how you can improve the decorations or content of your website. I want to start with some typical content mistakes, and this has to do with written content. The first is that we see a lot of you-centered content. We get to websites that talk on and on and on about the company, their licenses, their degrees, how wonderful they are. And I know it's your website and you think you're supposed to do that, but you're not. You're supposed to talk about what your customer cares about, what their problem is, and how you solve it. And when you prove that you can do that, then you get to talk about you. We also see a lot of impersonal content. And I always laugh when I run into this, particularly when I know the people behind the company and they're warm and they're personal. And I read this very, very stuffy content and I think to myself, who are these people and why would I want to do business with them? The next thing I see is there's a lot of stale or shallow content, information that hasn't been updated, and pages that really aren't worth the visit. These days, your primary page is not your home page because that's more of a directional page, but all the interior pages should have a minimum of 600 words. If you haven't got that kind of meat, think about combining pages to make them worth visiting. We also see large blocks of text with no headings and no subheads. People are going to skim your site. Remember, we talked a little bit about vertical hierarchy. Those headlines and titles breaking up the text give readers a way to jump from section to section to find what they're looking for. And then I get to pages that have no resources and no logical next step. And again, I get to the bottom of the page and I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. You want to also avoid jargon or complex text. If you're in an industry that has a lot of buzzwords, make sure you define them. And you don't have to sound smart. Actually being able to explain your product or service in layman's terms is more challenging than you imagine, and it is way more important if you want to make that customer feel comfortable. And the last thing that really trips people up is a lack of attention to detail. I'm really not good at proofreading my own work, and I would look like a complete idiot if it wasn't for my editor. That some of the best money that you can spend is paying someone to proofread your website. And words matter, and it matters who you're talking to, which words you choose. I'm going to show you an example. This is a web design company, and I'm going to show you examples of several web design companies and how they choose different words based on their audience. This is a company that does not want to do work for business owners. He wants to work for other web development companies. And so you see freelance WordPress development, PSD to WordPress. That's not language that the average business owner will understand, but another web developer will. And so he's made a very specific choice to talk only to other web developers. This is an unfortunate choice. I know what they were getting at, but I got to tell you that I've never met a business owner who told me he was laying awake at night worrying about leveling up his website or leveling up his business. That's an internal term, and they've tried to push it out to make it relevant for their customers, but their customers don't care. This next site just confused the heck out of me. They do all these other things, but somewhere buried in all of this is their web design business, and I couldn't find it And I know that's what they do. But they were talking about all these other unleashing creative potential, human centered design. All I want is a website. This, this messaging does not talk to me. I really like this website. I think the call to action, the messaging in the top of the page is very relevant. Grow your revenue with inbound marketing and sales the smart way. I'm a business owner. I want to grow my revenue. Okay, I'll do inbound marketing if that's how I grow my business. My only complaint is I would have highlighted grow your revenue, not the smart way. Because quite honestly, I don't care whether it's smart or not if it works. I think this is probably one of the best homepage messaging that I've seen in a really long time. Increase your sales and profitability. I get to the website and that's what I'm looking for. And so I want to talk to these people. And then in smaller text, you see e-commerce, digital marketing that will. So they're defining what they do. But the first thing you see is you're going to sell more and make more money. So you want your message on your homepage, that first message, to really speak to your target audience and what you want them to do. Your customers have questions. That's why they go to Google. That's why they come to your website. And so you want to have the answers. There are 4 main types of questions that customers have when they go to the internet, when they're getting ready for a purchase: information, navigation, commercial investigation, and finally, transactional questions. And what you want to do is make sure that you answer each of these questions somewhere on your website. Informational questions are typically the questions people ask when they don't know what they don't know. How is, what is, why do I need? Navigation are directional questions. Often they revolve around things like, where can I buy a toaster near me? Or where can I buy a Bryant heating system? So they may know the product name, but now they want to know where to get it. If you're carrying name brand products, you want to make sure that you have pages and content dedicated to that brand so that people who are searching for it can find you. Commercial investigation questions dive a little bit deeper. This is where you start to get some comparisons between you and competitors, testimonials on your website, comparisons between different products will help people decide that you are the right choice. And finally, transactional questions. How do I buy? How does the process work? How do I get started? For a lot of these questions, you can do individual pages, but also you may want to consider having an FAQ page on your site. FAQs are good for people because they answer the questions. It saves time for both customers and employees because they can get right to the information they need. It helps you earn trust because it presents exactly the information people are looking for. You want to be sure that you're not masking your about page as an FAQ, that these really are questions that customers have, not just things you want to tell them. And the nice thing is an added bonus for SEO, because questions, keywords, and direct answers connect directly with what Google is looking for. You may see your answers displaying as rich snippets. And the other thing is that when you have an FAQ page with a specific question and an answer, it helps optimize your site for voice search. And we are seeing more and more voice search applications. And yes, you need a blog, because there is no way that you're going to be able to answer all the questions your prospective customers have with your FAQ page. And so rather than bog it down with hundreds and hundreds of pieces of information, you can dive in and get lots of information on individual pages, 600 words long, that answer a very niche, very specific question. And your blog is searchable. And don't forget that images and video are content too. These days, more than 27% of search is image search. And so you want to have pictures on your website, but you don't want to have these generic photos that appear everywhere. The handshakes, people writing on walls, and my personal favorites, the plants. Now, I know this is supposed to represent growth and financial improvement, but I got to tell you, I see a plant pulled out of the earth, and I'm thinking that plant's going to die. So, not a great idea. Now, I'm bashing generic photos, but there are times that you need to use stock images, and you can be creative with your use of stock image. Go ahead and blur them and put a little text over them. Crop them at odd angles to make them more interesting. Also, you can do some things like this where you fade them out so the image is there, but it's just kind of a hint to the image, and the real emphasis is on the word. The other time that I think you really need to think about stock images is anytime you're showing pictures of children. People are pretty protective of their kids. They prefer to not have them on random websites. And if you are going to use stock images, there is one place where you absolutely cannot use it, and that's on your About Us page. I actually went to a website of a company we were thinking of doing some business with, and this was the image on their About page. And I thought to myself, those people don't work for you. And so I was immediately turned off. I didn't even get to the point that I realized they were holding blank sheets of paper. When you are talking about your people, real people every time. And I got to tell you, this was a little bit creative, but really wasn't that hard to do. We took these photos in an office with a white wall behind us. We created the illusion by holding a little bit of white foam core so that we could strip the images out and make it look like we were standing or leaning or falling out a window. The other thing that we did, because these were not professional photos, this was a photo that our graphic designer took just with a random camera, we took them to black and white. Black and white will often cover over some of the inconsistencies to create a more unified look. And video. Oh my goodness, we are living in the age of video. It increases traffic, it engages visitors, it improves your search rankings, and it increases conversion. It pulls people in. Websites with video get 41% more traffic and 34% higher conversion. But if you're going to use video, placement matters. You want to make sure that you are strategic about where you put the video. If the video is designed to motivate someone to action, upper left. If the video is the footnote, it's kind of the closer. If they haven't quite been convinced, like a testimonial video, lower right. You want to put an overlay over the video because you've all seen it. You go to YouTube and you've uploaded a video, and for some reason, that thumbnail is always the most unattractive picture of you. You can always upload a cover image that will lay as an overlay, that will be attractive, that'll encourage people to actually play. You do not want your videos to autoplay. Now, this is not referring to videos that you're using in your hero image with no sound. But if you have a video that has sound, you do not want it starting until the visitor says, I'm in a place where I can listen to this video. You want to embed your video from YouTube or Vimeo, and you don't really want to host it on your site. Why? Because video requires bandwidth. And remember in section 1, we talked about speed. Video will slow down your site. And you want to keep it short, unless it's a webinar. If you're just trying to convince someone to take that next step, 30 seconds, a minute, maybe 90 seconds is really all you've got. Okay, now it's time for you to go look at your content.